Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Olta, Talent Garden Innovation School, Orientation and Admission. I have here with me Alberto today as a guest speaker for our speech, our event about interaction design. So just a few things about this event and why I wanted to have this kind of talk and why I have Alberto with me today. Interaction design is a topic that comes very often when I talk to people that want to take part of our training courses. So to go there, I would like to explain a little bit what is Talent Garden and how did this all start. Basically, we started as a small campus, the co-working space in 2011 in Italy, with the aim to put together people that are interested in innovation and in digital and tech areas. So in 2015, we added also the educational part that we call the Talent Garden Innovation School, where we offer all kind of trainings. So for us, it's not just a physical space or some courses, it's more about the community of people that are interested in innovation. Now I work as an orientation and admission specialist, which means I take care of the admission process for some of our courses. One of those courses is UX Design Bootcamp and also UX Summer Program, where Alberto is also one of our faculty members. Very often during the talks that I have with candidates, they have all sorts of questions. What is UX design? Because of course I talk to people that have different kind of levels of expertise. Some of them are quite skilled, they ask the right questions. Some of them, they really don't know anything about UX design or interaction design, or what is the difference, or what is design in general, and also how they can use this kind of skills in everyday life. So that's why I have Alberto with me today. Obviously, I try to educate myself and read a little bit around to have like a smooth conversation with candidates, but I always rely on the expertise of our faculty members to actually talk about the field where they work in. So Alberto, if you don't mind introducing a little bit yourself, and also I'm looking forward to the presentation. Maybe I can learn a few things and that I can use during my interviews with candidates.
Thank you, Alta. Hello, everyone. My name is Alberto, as Alta said. I'm a lead interaction designer in Sketchin. It's a design studio based in Switzerland. So far, I do the interaction design since like 10 years, actually. And I would like actually today to share with you some of the different things that actually I learned so far, because as an interaction designer, I was involved in many different kind of projects, from actually designing new services to designing interfaces, and also in many different countries, because actually we are international studio, so actually I did a lot of projects abroad. And then I figure out that actually when we talk about interaction design, is like everybody is thinking only about specific stuff, but there are like many different areas in which interaction design can actually be involved in. So that's why I would like to share it with you today.
Thank you very much. I will share your screen meanwhile.
Yeah.
And also, guys, if you have questions, just use the comment section and we will answer everything at the end when we have a Q&A session.
Okay, so basically, we're talking about interaction design. So interaction design is basically a discipline that rules how a user interact with a service or a product. Despite this, actually, it's everybody, when we think about interaction design, believe it's only about designing an app or a website. So certainly this is the biggest part of interaction design that we actually can see, but there is a lot of other things behind interaction design. That's what I would like to actually focus with you today. So in order to start talking about this, I would like to actually introduce a concept that is the touch point. So if you are interested into design, probably you heard touch point many times, and but I would say that 90% of the time when we talk about touch point, there is a misunderstanding about it. So a touch point is a specific interaction between customer and organization. It includes different things. So for example, for having a touch point, we need to have a device, so it can be a laptop, a smartphone, or a TV. We need to have a channel, so it can be a telephone, app, or social media, or many other channels, of course. Here I'm just mentioning a few of them. And then we have a need. So a need that the user needs to fulfill. So assistance, purchase, get a ride, whatever needs actually the user is doing. So just to be sure about what we're talking about, this is not a touch point. This is a device. This is not even a touch point. This is just an iPad. And also a desk is not a touch point. It's just a place where you can actually perform a touch point. Touch point basically is stuff like this. So when you request an Uber via app, it's a touch point, requesting an Uber via app. When you do an assistance call because actually you need support from whatever you bought or whatever you want to buy, that's a touch point. And last but not least, browsing a movie on the TV, on Netflix, it's a touch point. Because as you can see here, we have the three main areas that we covered before. So we have the device, we have the need, and we have the channel. So all the three of these examples are basically interactions. When you interact with the service, with Uber, with any brand that actually needs support from, and also with Netflix. Because basically a touch point is the moment of interaction. And we can have many different kind of interactions, actually. We can have a digital interaction. I mean, this is the one that for sure you know. When you go on a website to check out something, when you open an app, that's a moment of interaction. We can have then a physical interaction. So basically, when you do a laundry or when you withdraw cash at ATM, it's a physical interaction. So somebody designed that stuff. Think about when you withdraw money at the ATM. No, the fact that actually first you get the card back and then you get the money back. That's designed because actually if you get the money back, everybody will then forget the card because when you go there, actually you need the money. So it's still interaction design. Then you have the voice. I mean, nowadays, basically, there are a lot of different interfaces you can interact with the voice, like Alexa or Siri. It's still interaction design. Somebody designed the skill you're talking with. But then there is another kind of interaction design. It's about people you meet. So it's human interactions. So basically, when you order something via app and then you go to pick it up from any place, basically it's you're doing a human interaction. Or when you book online an hotel and then you do the check-in and then you have to go physically to the place showing some kind of PDF or some kind of barcode, we're talking about human interaction. And even when you actually take a flight, so basically you do the online check-in and then they give you something inside your wallet or on your Apple Watch, and then you go to the check-in to the gate to show this to the people. So here we're talking about human interaction, but actually we're talking about not only this when we talk about interaction design, so not only apps that everybody knows, but we are talking also about this, and I would say mainly about this. So when you do when you order something, there is a food delivery, and you have to interact with the guy that is bringing you the food. Or when you do a medical exam, and you have to interact with the nurse or with the doctor that actually is doing the exam to you. Or even when you schedule an appointment for having a technician coming at home to fix you something, because all this actually interaction that we saw are human interaction, but that are mediated by technology. So we use the technology as an enabler there to actually enable two different users, so one user and the player of the service, to interact between them. So when you, for example, you follow a rider on an app, or when you do a check-in, it's still mediated by technology. Or when you do an assistance call, if you think about during pandemic, I guess most of us actually contact any kind of service to be helped with their product or whatever, anything else, even to set up a modem or a router, and actually they propose you a phone call. That's still human interaction, but mediated by technology. So mediated by technology doesn't mean app. So as a designer, we are always focusing on apps, but here I would like to actually reflecting a little bit about the fact that there is a lot of different things than apps. I mean, we don't have to design every time an app. And as a designer, actually, we do not design only apps. So there are things like virtual reality that actually they don't that doesn't rely on apps. Or this one is a totem from Dallas Cowboy in the US, in which you can actually take a picture with the team and then send a picture to your phone. And there is no app for doing that. It's just a totem. Or when you do augmented reality. All these different examples actually are something in which, as an interaction designer, we can take part in, but we don't have to design an app. So there is a whole world beside that. And we can also actually bring the interactions a little bit closer to us. So we can do something that goes from screen to the real life. So screens were I think that smartphone screens actually were one of the biggest thing in the last 50 years, I would say. But maybe now it's time to move on. It's time to make the technology invisible and bring it closer to us. If you think about this, it's a Google Pay. It's already a huge step forward than using the physical card. And then actually we moved to this one. So we moved to including the card actually in a wearable, so in a smartwatch. But then somebody now is actually taking RFID under the skin, and actually there are some people that can pay only placing their hand on the POS for paying in a shop. Or thinking about if you know anybody that has diabetes, you know that they have also always to bring with them this kind of stuff to do some checks. And this was like this till a few years ago, actually. And then everything moved to, for example, this one. So to actually include in the phone and into an app. But today, actually, if you have diabetes, you can use this kind of sensors that actually are attached to your screen, to your skin, in which actually they notify you when there is something that is not okay with your sugar with the sugar level in your blood. So basically, as you can see, we can move from screens to actually real life, to actually wear the technology. So bring it with us, not just inside the screen. But how can we design human mediated interaction? So there are like few different things that actually we can do. So these are few tips that I figure out during my career. First of all is to make consistent experiences. So basically, doesn't matter if you design something that it's like this, so it's only face to face, or if you design something that actually is via app. So think about a check-in, for example. Now it's something that we all know. What it's important is that these two experiences are consistent. So basically, you do everything that you can do in one experience, also in the other experience. So you should never design something mediated by technology that has less possibilities than the one that you can do in real life. Then we have the micro journey. So when, as an interaction designer, when we design something, we have to keep in consideration where the user is coming from and where the user is going. So we do not have to focus only on the single interaction, but we have to make it a little bit broader and actually being able to understand where the user is coming from and what's the goal. So if I'm designing a medical app, for example, for a doctor, I have to think about the fact that actually the doctor is doing something during the day using my app. Maybe he just did a medical examination on a patient. So now he needs actually to take the result of the exam in order to do something. Or if we design a new way to order at a restaurant, we have to keep in consideration the fact that the user actually is sitting at the table doing some stuff, and maybe they read the menu beside ordering. Or if we design, for example, something for a marinas or something for a boat service, we have to also keep in consideration the fact that the user maybe has no internet access because it's outside in the sea. I mean, this is the third tips that I can give. It's like maybe can look a little bit stupid, but most of the things that we design as designers are driven by common sense. So we're not designing rocket science, and we have always to remember this. So common sense should be the first skill of every interaction designer. So if we design a new way to manage orders at the restaurant, we have to keep in consideration the fact that our user is the waiter, and maybe he has other 20 tables waiting for him. So we don't have to design something that is complex, but has to be something pretty quick that actually he can do. Or imagine, think about this girl that is doing a lot of coffees and is taking order via this iPad that she has in front of her. We have to design an interface that actually let her tap on stuff that are a little bit far away from her. So we have to design interface that is big enough that she can see, and easy enough that she can actually handle that while also doing coffees. Or think about Uber or any other navigation systems. When the user is interacting with this service, mostly is driving. So of course we cannot ask to the user to perform complex interactions within the interface, because otherwise they will be bad. And we have to design the moment, not only the interaction. So as designer, we have to move away from spending hours into designing that specific button, and actually spending hours in designing the moment, the whole moment that the user is living in. And for doing this, actually, I'm introducing this concept from Mark Rodson that is about placefulness. So placefulness is the concept of a digital asset that has some specific properties in a specific location in the real world. And I want to broaden it a little bit, not only in a specific location, but I would say in a specific moment. So think about the insurance app that actually detect that you just had a car accident, and then can call an ambulance, call the police, and even let you report the accident, but only in the moment that actually you did it. Or think about a visor that actually enables some kind of content only when you enter in a specific room. Or an hospital app or a medical app for patients that actually enable them to discover new exams or results or new things about what they have to do based on the location they are in the hospital. So if they are in a specific area of the hospital, the app knows that and actually enables some content. Then there is this this concept is something that actually, when we design human interaction mediated by technology, is really, really important. You can control everything. When we design a financial app, for example, we can control everything. We can. I mean, it's a financial app, so we can control every single screen, every single tap the user is doing, wherever it's going. We have some APIs in the backend that are connected, so we know which kind of data we have, which kind of data we don't have. Even if there is a problem, we can design an error screen that shows that that there is some error to come back later. But when we design human-mediated interaction, and we design, for example, some kind of service that actually lets you request a ride from A to B, we have to think about that then this guy will come to pick up our user. And we cannot control what this guy will tell to our user, what they will talk about, what this guy will tell about the service. if this guy will take any shortcuts to actually overcome the service, to not pay fee or whatever it is. And also if this guy maybe knows that the route that is suggested by our system is not the best one, because he knows that there is a car accident or whatever it is. So yeah, you need to take, you decide to take another way. So we cannot control everything when there are people involved in the service. Training. So when we design human interactions, we need to train someone actually to deliver this experience. Again, if we design a financial app, we don't need to train anybody, because I mean, we do the app, we design it, then somebody will code it, and then it will work. But when we design how to actually manage an online booking when arrive at the desk, we need to actually train the people that we deliver this service and will interact with our user via technology to actually being able to deliver this. So this is a very important step to take into consideration. If you design something that is mediated by people, you need to train those people to actually perform your design. Then we have the fact that actually a lot of things actually can happen when we design something that involves different people. So we are designing situations, and into those situations actually there are a lot of different a lot of possible scenarios, and actually we cannot design all of them. So when in the end our service, it's about two people talking to each other, doesn't matter if we use technology to actually enable this connection between two different people. We have to take in consideration that a lot of different possible scenarios will happen there, and we cannot design all of them, but we need to design the majority of them in order to understand what actually can happen into these situations. But maybe you're wondering, where is the technology in all of this? So in our job as an interaction designer, so I work in a studio, so in a design studio. So for us, technology in all this part is only an enabler of the experience. So we never start from technology point of view. So we always start from the user point of view, and we design the best experience ever, and then we try to adapt the technology that we know that exists. We try to bend it in order to actually deliver this experience. So if you are working, for example, or if you talk with some kind of research lab designer, so imagine the designer that works for a big tech company and works inside their tech lab or their research lab. For them, usually is completely the opposite way. So they have some technology that is developed maybe in China, usually from the headquarters, and then they say, hey, we have this kind of technology, what can we do? And then they figure out some way to use this technology. That's actually what happened when you see some kind of new advertised technology or product that you ask yourself, but do I really need this? That's usually happen when you start from technology and not from a real need from the user. And so basically the idea for, at least for us in Sketchin, is to have more and more technology, because we are not against technology, actually, we love it, but less and less visible. So the less visible the technology is, the better it is. So we don't design for the sake of it, for the sake of technology. We design for the experience, and then we use the technology to deliver this experience. And if you don't see the technology but you only see the experience, way better than ever. So these are a few actually human interaction that we design. So a little bit of let's say portfolio that actually we did in order to let you understand which kind of project I'm talking about. So for example, we designed and I was personally involved in this project, the a product that is called Sky Wi-Fi. So Sky is the this is the broadband TV. And actually, last year in Italy, they entered the internet market, and now they are a provider. And we design all this kind of service that involve a lot about how you actually connect with the technician, how you can welcome this guy at your home to actually install your router and stuff like that. Then we designed a new for a brand called Dimarin. We designed a completely new way to actually experience a marina. So it's where you park your boat usually, and a lot of this interaction that we design are mediated by technology. So you use app or portal or a QR code, whatever, to actually have a better experience. But in the end, it's also about human interaction between you and who is managing that marina. We did another project for San Raffaele. It's an hospital in Italy, and we partnered with Microsoft in order to actually design new scenarios about how the doctors can actually interact with their patients. And I think I still have two projects that I want to talk to you about. The first one is this one for Gavi Group. It's actually the group that manage all the highway in Italy. And in this case, actually, we didn't design anything for the final user, but we designed how different roles inside the company can interact with each other in order to perform a better internal experience that then reflect to better products for the user. And last one is a luxury cruise service in which we design a new LED system on board of this huge boat that the user can interact with in order to understand better where are they going, which kind of actually things they can do once they get there, and also how they can interact with the rest of the crew on board of the ship. So we are coming a little bit to a conclusion, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what I think is the interaction designer to be. So as you can see, some obvious considerations, because actually I'm not giving you any secret, but I think that the interaction designer to be, so the one that actually as a designer we need to aim for, is somebody that is has different verticalities. So if you are familiar with a T-shaped designer, basically it's a designer that actually is vertical on one discipline, that can be interaction design, and horizontal on all the different other disciplines, so with service design or anything else. But actually now everything is changing, and we're moving from a T-shaped to H or M-shaped designer. So actually a designer that is vertical on 2 or 3 disciplines, and then horizontal on all of them, on all the others. Interaction designer to design human interaction needs to be curious, because you need to be curious about what actually is happening in the real world. So not only in an app, how people interact, how they want to perform something, how they want to live their experience. Definitely empathic, because we can somehow forget about empathy when we design a financial app. I would say you never have to forget about it, but definitely when you design how two people interact, you have to think about you have to be empathic, because, for example, you have to think about what the user is living in that moment while he's interacting with a service or somebody else. Because most of the things that we design are really used in a specific moment. Imagine the case I told you before about the user having a car accident. If the user has to use your app in that moment, you have to take in consideration that he just have or she just have had a car accident. You cannot forget about it. Then a systemic approach. So basically, as designer, we need to be able to take a look at the single interaction, but also on at the big picture about what the user is doing in that moment. Because interaction design right now is definitely changing. So it's something that it's definitely moving, because there are a lot of different disciplines. So like digital prototyping, service design, technology, product design, ergonomics. A lot of things actually are getting into interaction design. So interaction design is overlapping more and more with many other disciplines, and so it means that also interaction designers, they have to change. So they need to be able to speak many different languages than just design. So maybe they need to become also some technologists or some kind of psychologists to think about what the user want to do. And most of them, we need to be able to work at different scale of design. So we need to be able to actually work on the context level. So which is the context we are operating in as designer in a specific field of something that we are designing. Then we need to be able to actually go down to the service we are designing, so the whole service. And also we need to move a little bit to the moment. So there is a whole service that has several different moments that can happen, and we need to go down to a specific moment and to a specific interaction that actually the user is performing in those moments. Because actually we need then be able to come back to the context, and actually we need to be able to go up and down or left and right as you wish in every moment of our journey as designers, because actually the interaction tells us what the user is doing, but the context is telling us why the user is doing something. It is as important as the interaction. So when we design a specific button that does something, of course we are designing that button and we need to design what is doing that, but we have to remember why the user wants to do that. Because actually more and more we are working in a multimodal interaction world. So right now, when you design something, you can have many different input. So an output. So basically I can do something in a, for example, on an app, and basically have a feedback that comes via email, or a feedback that comes actually via voice, because somebody is asking me something. So imagine when you order something at McDonald's via app. No, I order via app, but then somebody's screaming my name. So we live in a multimodal interaction world that actually we can have different inputs. So we always have to be aware of the context and the interaction itself. But what's our goal as designers? So I think it's very simple, our goal. I mean, we don't save lives. So sometimes we have to remember that there are, I would say, more and more important jobs than what we do. But actually our goal is just to provide the best experience. So doesn't matter if we design something that it's in a virtual world or in a specific in a real world, but actually we have to remember that as I wrote here, the future of computing is less about building a new world in the computer and more about adapting the computer to our world. So when we design inside the screen, we have to remember that actually the user, they don't live inside the screen. They live their lives in the real world. And actually they're using the screen only to mediate some interaction, now in order to perform some goal, to enable something they want to achieve, but not to live there. So if we design something that is like in the metaverse or in the virtual reality, or if we design a simple app or a delivery service that actually in which we need to interact with somebody, we have to remember this. We need to provide the best experience ever, because in the end, I think that design it's all about humans to humans. So we're not computers. So we design stuff in order to connect different human beings to perform different actions, not for the sake of designing an app, for example. Yeah, I think that's it. So I mean, I hope you enjoy that. And Alta, I guess we can move on to the slide as well, to the question actually.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that I had, as always, some questions for you, and you already answered half of them, so I have to come up with new questions from my side. But I think they are already coming up with questions, so guys, you can drop them in the comments. We have the first one, then I will also ask mine later. We can remove this. Thank you very much, Alberto. And Gustavo is asking, what will be the biggest changes you believe the metaverse and virtual reality will bring to interactions?
Okay, I mean, that's the question that actually everybody is doing to themselves. I think I believe that actually, I mean, as interaction designers, we are able to design stuff for the metaverse and virtual reality without any problem. The biggest challenge, I think, or the biggest changes also, it's about remembering the fact that actually interaction design was born in the 1970s, more or less, in which there were no screens, or at least almost no screens. So it's not about only designing apps, as I said before. No, so it's about designing many different things. And designing the metaverse, it means that as an interaction designer, we will have to acquire new skills in order to be able to design in a completely new world. But as interaction design, that's what we always do. I mean, Rams and all the other designers that actually were designing a real product were designing stuff in a different world than the one we're designing right now inside screens. No, but then as interaction designer, we were able to move from that real, let's say, physical world to actually a digital one that lives in a screen. So now we just need to do another change to move into a metaverse, so into a virtual reality world. So the biggest change I think is about remembering that, I mean, interaction design doesn't mean designing apps. It means designing interaction with a service and with people. And because I think that nowadays, especially in the last, let's say in the last 10 years, as designer, we focus too much on only designing apps and forgetting about designing a whole service. Then doesn't matter if the service is in the real world, it's in the metaverse, it's in the virtual reality, or in an app. It's still about designing interaction with a service or a person. I mean, I hope I cover it a little bit.
Thank you, Alberto. So I actually have a few questions. First of all, when I invited you to do this presentation for us, I said something about user experience and interaction experience. And you said something that confused me a little bit to what is the difference between the both, and that actually one is the other. So I got a little bit confused. And to this day, I'm not sure I have the answer. Could you explain a little bit user experience versus interaction experience? What is the main difference? Is it just a naming thing or something else?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, there is no single and unique answers to this. So there is not such a single truth about it. How I interpreted this, it's more about the fact that more and more we see some roles, some labels about UX designers. I think that this is working pretty well because Google is indexing this buzzword really, really good. That's why everybody's using it. So I think actually that user experience is not a role; it's an approach. So as an interaction designer, as visual designer, as service designer, we should design using a user experience approach, or let's say a user-centered or a life-centered approach. And this means that as an interaction designer, I design interaction, taking in consideration the whole user experience of the customer. No, but when that's why I define myself, first of all, a designer, and then a designer that actually It has a lot of focus on interaction, but then I know a little bit about service. I know a little bit about visual design, but definitely I'm not considering myself a user experience designer, because user experience should be the approach that we take when we actually design specific interactions.
Okay, thank you. I think it's clearer now. So we
And
have another question. Andrea says the smartest answer I heard about this topic. Clap. So thank you, Andrea,
thank
and
you.
thank you, Alberto, of course, to the answer. And Michal has another question for you. What role has a UX designer in the interaction design world? I know we're a part of it, but where it stops our work and continues yours. So I think you
I mean,
covered it more or less.
yeah, but I would say, I would phrase this on the other side. What role has an interaction designer in the UX design world? That's how I would phrase this. Because, as I said, I think there is at least for me, a complete misunderstanding about this. UX design is just because on LinkedIn it works really well and on Google works really well, but actually, I'm an interaction designer designing inside the user experience design world. That's completely on the other side than this. So, and where just to answer also to the last part of the question. As I said, as designer, we overlap more and more with other disciplines. So it's impossible to say where we're ending and where anything else is starting. We should, as designer, we should be the one that actually can talk with any different kind of disciplines inside that part. No, and as an interaction designer, I would say that actually I need to be able also to conduct a workshop with clients, also to make some research script in order to interview users. Maybe not maybe, but for sure I won't be the best service designer in the world or the best UX researcher. But this doesn't mean that I have to, for example, design only wireframes and then leave it to somebody else saying, yeah, I'm an interaction designer, I design only wireframes. If you have to put some colors, yeah, go to a visual designer. For me, that's not the role of the designer. So maybe I won't be the best visual designer ever, but I need to include this in my design, as well as copy, for example, copywriting. No, as designer, we need to move on from designing with lorem ipsum. We need to be able to place some real content in that. So I would say that there is no clear boundaries, and the broader you can go as designer, the better it is, I think, for you and the company that hire you, actually.
Okay, then we move to the next one. Is Stefano. Hi, Alberto. I'm working on a thesis on design for all. How can I manage to simplify any function and create new gestures? How can I translate man-to-man communication into man-machine communication?
That's a really hard question. This would actually need more than the time that we have to answer this, because it's a huge topic that everybody's working on since like the 80s. So how can I manage to simplify any function? This is really interesting, and I have no clear answer about that. Just a few things that pop up in my mind is when I design some stuff, and I design things that actually I want to design for all and to create new things for other users. I always remember something that I read into when I started my journey as a designer. Because I read this book that was, it's a pretty old book, and the name is Don't Make Me Think. And actually, this book talks about super early design of, I would say into the 2000, so 20 years ago, and was focusing about don't make the user think. So this is what popped in my mind. So if you want to simplify any function and create new gesture, is about don't make the user think about it. So if as a user I have to think about something, it's not working, never. And sometimes it also means to use something that is not the best solution that you can have, because, for example, there are many patterns that, as a user, so I include myself, I'm used to do. That if I have to design from scratch, maybe I would go into a completely different direction. No, but now there are so many patterns that actually you live in that for you looks like normal. So think about the burger menu. No, I mean, the hamburger menu is the worst thing that we ever invented as designer. Is the evil, because you just hide everything under something. So you don't care about the context, you don't care about the content. You just put everything inside the burger menu. It's pure evil in my eyes. But if you place 3 horizontal lines everywhere now, I mean, people knows about it and they will use it. Now you see that burger menu even on desktop, where you actually don't actually need it at all. I mean, just to sum up, don't make the user think if you want to create new gesture, and if you want to translate man-to-man communication into man-machine communication. So make them feel frictionless and super easy things to do. But keep in mind the fact that we have some patterns that actually right now we are still bonded to, and are pretty hard to actually forget. Maybe in 20 years.
Okay, so while we wait for other questions, I have one for you. What is the worst user experience that you have had? Like, it could be an app or even using a service somewhere. Do you have something in mind?
I mean, if I have to think about the worst user experience ever, usually I mean, I don't have something specific, but generally speaking, the worst user experience that you can live as a user are the experiences in which actually you have to go. I mean, you're forced to do something that is not going into the direction that you would like to go. So think about I don't think about anything that actually can happen also in the real world. If you want to do a check-in in a hotel and actually you cannot do it online, or you can do only one part online, and then you have to finish on another channel because maybe it's not working or whatever it is. So usually the worst experience are the one that actually goes into the opposite direction than the one you're pointing to as a user. As we said before, no, I mean, as a user, I always have a pointing direction in my experience, and it's the natural direction I would go. And if we design something that goes on the other side, and then or that take another path, that's the worst the worst user experience you can have. And actually, that's also the experience that you will remember as a user. So it's always it's double bad, actually.
Okay, thank you, Alberto. I actually have another question. What is the most important step in design? But actually, this came in my mind because I was thinking about user research. You said something in your presentation that one of the things that you need to have in order to have a good interaction design is to have some common sense. I was thinking, is everyone blessed with common sense? And do designers sometimes struggle with subjectivism as to they fall in love with the design or the way that they do it? First of all, I see this, for example, when our students have presentations. Of course, it's the first project they work in for the bootcamp, for example. And of course, it's very difficult for them sometimes to understand that something is not working because they get attached, they are unexperienced maybe. So I was just wondering, how do designers usually deal with this?
So actually, you brought up 2 different topics. So the first one is the worst thing that you can ever do as a designer is falling in love with your design. I mean, this is the worst thing ever, because actually you are not. I mean, if you fall in love with your design, then you're designing for yourself, but you're not the user. Even if then you will use the service, you're not the user because you're looking at everything from another point of view. that is not the point of view of the user. So you should always be able to not fall in love with your design, even because if you fall in love with your design, it's super difficult to actually be critical and to actually admit that that was crap. No, I mean, because you felt in love with that. So how can I admit that was not super super good? No. So you need to have some kind of distance from your design. And the other stuff is common sense. I mean, I think that common sense is the greater skill of every interaction designer. As you can, as you say, is, I mean, it's something that some people are blessed with. I mean, some people are like, I mean, it's easy for them to understand in common sense, but it's also something that you can train. I mean, first of all, detaching yourself from the design you are designing, and secondly, being curious about everything. So experiences every new service that come out. It's also something that actually lets you train a little bit of that, because you experience many different services and you can be critical about them. And then, as Andrea said, fall in love with your users. So always remember that you're designing for somebody, no, not for you. So if you remember this, you remember that maybe you are designing for a Uber driver, and that actually cannot perform different actions on the app. No, I mean, you have to put yourself in the shoes of your user. No, because if you design a navigation app, and I mean, we all do that, you know, at your screen you have your MacBook, a second screen, and then you have your iPhone, in which you have the Figma account that actually show live your prototype. But actually you're designing, you're testing it on your desk, on your in your office, sitting on your chair. But then you have to remember that this guy will use this on a car, without the phone being in front of him, but mostly on a side, while have to watch the street and while have to answer the question to the client. So always put yourself in the shoes of the user will help you a lot to design with common sense.
Thank you very much. And one other thing that I had here, let me find it. Oh, yeah. So, what profiles can benefit from some UX design or interaction design skills? We have now the UX summer program. Of course, it's a crash course for upskilling. And I receive very often emails to say, okay, I'm interested in this, but I'm not sure if it's a good fit for me. I believe that a lot of people could benefit from these skills, of course, as long as they work in a service, or they have to work with people, or maybe in an app or a product. So the last example that I have is a girl that was a data analyst, like data visualization. She was interested in this thing, and she thought that user UX skills would actually help her. I was wondering, what is your opinion on that? Do you have like a list of maybe profiles that could benefit from a background in UX design to properly do their job? Something that this may be very obvious, maybe marketing, for example, or sales, or also other profiles that for us, for me, maybe are not so obviously that could benefit from this kind of skills, but you know for sure that they could.
Yeah, so I would say that the list it's really long. I mean, first of all, because now everyone is trying to put some user experience design inside their company or product. So I mean, if you know that, it's always better to know that. But let's say that everyone that is involved into some kind of service that deliver a service, it will benefit from that. No, even because, so for example, if you are a developer, I mean, maybe you will never design something, but if you can understand how the designer that you're dealing with are designing the stuff that actually then you have to code, will of course will benefit. It's the same way why I love to code stuff. No, I mean, I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer. I will never apply for a developer job ever in my life, but I like to know how actually at the end of the journey somebody will code my stuff, and then I love to be aware that if something that I'm designing is doable or not. The same way somebody from marketing will benefit from knowing better about UX design if that actually something that they are advertising actually will work or not, or if it's doable doing the stuff that they want to deliver. No, so I would say that all the different roles that are more or less involved into some kind of service delivery, they will benefit from that. If you do data viz, for sure. I mean, or you just design some kind of posters with data visualization, but that's usually not the case. But because even that kind of stuff are more and more integrated into other services, into newspapers, into how I can look at the dashboard of a service that I'm using. So of course, if you know about UX design, it's the broader picture now. So we'll benefit all of these different roles.
Okay, thank you very much. If we don't have any more questions, I think we can end it here. Thank you, Alberto, always for joining me. You always have my back when it comes to this kind of design topics. So thank you very much for that. And if you guys have questions, feel free to actually email me directly if you are interested in our courses. You can also check our website to see if you find something that you'd like to do. Then we will also share a follow-up email with all participants, and then maybe we can share also the presentation of Alberto. And I thank you guys for joining us, and until next time. So have a good evening.
Thank you very much to everybody. Bye.